and welcome to this edition of Money's Best Friend with me, Vivek Law. We have been discussing various aspects of markets, mutual funds and real estate for the past few weeks now. We have tried to dispel myths surrounding volatility. We have talked about where our markets stand in the global financial scene, whether it is the right time to buy a property, and whether you've got good investment advice from experts. But over the last few weeks, we were flooded with a number of queries pertaining to one simple question. How do I manage my money during volatile times? Well, that's the question we aim to address in this episode of Money's Best Friend. Very often, we tend to pull out of volatile markets and wait on the sidelines until we believe it's safe to go back in. It's crucial to understand that volatility is inevitable. So what is the best strategy to ensure good returns even when the markets are not doing that well? What can you do to protect your portfolio? How can you remain safe in times of uncertainty? Let's see this special report on how to manage your money in volatile markets.
One thumb rule for building wealth is by investing regularly in a disciplined manner. And how can you ensure that? By signing up for a systematic investment plan. An SIP brings you the discipline of regular investment, irrespective of market dynamics, and earns you optimal returns. What then is an SIP? SIP is like your recurring deposit where you put in a small amount every month. It allows you to invest in a mutual fund at regular intervals. Once you register for SIP, your money is auto-debited from your bank account. Every month, you're allocated units based on the ongoing market rate. SIP works best for those apprehensive about equity funds. It minimizes risk rising from market ups and downs, and it gives you higher returns on volatility than lump sum investment. For example, if you had invested 10,000 rupees every month between September 2010 and September 2015, your investment of 6 lakhs would now be 8.04 lakhs at a compounded annual growth rate of 11%. A lump sum investment would have given you a return of just 8%. With an SIP, you invest during all market situations, which averages out the cost. Experts say because mid-cap funds are more vulnerable to market dynamics, you stand to gain if you invest in them through an SIP. It is for this reason that it is good to have at least one mid-cap fund in your portfolio. Consider this. If you had invested the same 10,000 rupees in an SIP of a mid-cap fund, you'd get returns of 26.44%. Return from a lump sum investment of the same amount would have been 18.06%. If you have long-term financial goals, then you stand to gain from SIPs, since compounding helps if you invest over a period of time. It can be goals like your child's education, marriage, or even retirement. For education, experts say a large cap or an investment fund suits the best. For immediate goals like buying a house or a car, a hybrid fund would do you good. The idea is to let your money build over time, systematically. For example, if you invest 2,000 rupees every month for 10 years, your investment of 2.4 lakhs would become around 5 lakhs, with an assumed growth rate of 12%.
It's an integral part of one's portfolio because it helps one build his wealth over long periods of time without actually living hand to mouth on the current situation and actually contributing small amounts of monies, like as little as 1,000 rupees on a monthly basis. So it, I think, should form a part of everyone's portfolio and our financial planning strategy.
Then again, markets are unpredictable and waiting for it to fall or rise is futile. SIP is amongst the safest options out there that help you in managing your money well in times of crisis.
All right, to discuss more on your money in volatile times, we have with us well-known financial planner Surya Bhatia. Thanks very much, Surya, for coming by again. Well, since we last spoke, we've seen some kind of calmness returning back to the markets, though we don't know for how long.
Yeah, sure.
And on the other hand, we've seen a very sharp cut in interest rates, more than what people thought the RBI would do. Of course, not all of it has got translated, but we can see our deposit rates at least certainly going down, going further. This points only to one direction, that to be in an investment class which is going to beat inflation is now even more inevitable, and therefore you have to keep aside some amount of your money in equities, isn't it?
That's right, absolutely. You're just spot on. In the current scenarios, I think when interest rates are going down, my inflation is easing out, the probability of you making money in asset classes like equity becomes very strong. And if you have a horizon which is long term, that's what you really always harp about. Do look at long term and look at equity as an asset class. It surely has to do well. And there are very, very few asset classes in today's time which has a potential to beat inflation on a consistent and regular basis. And equity is definitely one of them. So do look at equity as an asset class of your portfolio. Yes, if you do equities, the volatility has to be going hand in hand. My risk for sure will be there, but that's why we always talk about look at long term. It sounds very, very boring, but that's the fact of life. It's actually boring is good sometimes. So do look at long term, do look at longevity of asset classes, create a portfolio of yours which is meant to be invested for long term, and then equity has to be the critical pie of that portfolio which you create.
We Indians love gold and real estate, isn't it?
That's embedded in us.
It's embedded in us.
Absolutely.
And again, when we talk about real estate, Surya, there is a growing chorus now that prices have bottomed out. We don't expect prices to go down any further. So if you're sitting on the fence, because the last 2-3 years haven't been very good at all, right?
Yeah.
Being a neutral party, so to speak, you don't represent these industries at all.
Yeah.
Where does or where should real estate fit into your portfolio?
See, it's all about creating an asset class and allocation for yourself. So it's not about the real estate is going to go up or down from here. We are not debating about that at all. If you need to buy a house for your own consumption, for your own stay, please go ahead and buy, because I am going to then invest in that asset class for long term. We Indians don't swap our real estate very often, which is meant for our own usage. So if my horizon is 20, 30, 40 years, then I don't have a problem in holding that asset with me despite of whatever the markets may be. But if it's an investment, then I do a little careful that what I'm really doing. See, as a country of India, where my rental yields are 2%, 3% at best, and my borrowing cost is 10 to 12%, it does not make sense as an investment strategy to look at real estate. But yes, over the last so many years, it has been a very good asset class, which is a performing asset class. But will it be going forward? That's $1 million one. But if you believe that it will do well, please compare that asset class with other equally performing asset classes like equity and see the returns. History also has proved that over the last many, many years, the equities have outsmarted real estate. If you do a comparison, what happens in real estate, eventually I'm looking at a point-to-point comparison. I say in a span of 20 years, my property worth, let's say 1 crore has done 10 times. But what is my IRR? That's what really matters to me.
Can you explain that a bit more?
So if I'm doing it 10 times on my real estate over a 20-year period, which looks fabulous to me, if I tell to my children, or next 10 years if someone tells that, okay, please look at this value actually appreciated by 10 times. But if I break down that maths and calculate my compounded annualized growth rate on that asset, you'll be surprised. My average return on real estate comes to around 14 to 15%. Same period, if I look at equity as an asset class, it comes to 17 to 18%. Much more tax efficient.
Because here you haven't paid tax.
I have not paid. This is all gross of taxes. And equities in India, one of the very few countries which is actually tax-free if you hold for more than 1 year. So that 17% becomes tax-free, then 14% is taxable. I'm not counting the related costs attached to all these asset classes. And look at the convenience. Look at the transparency.
And the liquidity.
And the liquidity. So in today's time, even if I say for a property which has gone down, is it liquid? The answer is no. They're not buyers. I may have a price for a property, but they're not buyers. So then the liquidity goes for a toss. So keeping in mind all these challenges, you definitely think equity has a strong case to be in part of your portfolio for long term.
Lots of questions today for you, Surya. Let's go across to our first viewer, Ratnakar Mhatre, who's on the line from Mumbai. Hi, Ratnakar.
Hi, sir.
How are you doing?
Yeah, fine, sir.
And how's your money doing?
So that's why, sir, I need your suggestion and advice
Yes,
on this.
go ahead. What's your
Yeah.
question?
Hello?
Yes, what's your question?
Yeah, see, so I'm an IT engineer in a reputed IT firm, and my gross salary is 42,000. And I have almost 1 lakh in insurance. In that means LIC plus Sukanya Kanya. And just from 2 months, I start using SIP of 10,000 per month. So this is my portfolio. Hello?
Yes.
Yeah. So I just want to I just want your advice. Is the SIP safe for how many years? Like 5 years or 10 years? And how much of interest rate I will get after 5 years and 10 years? My SIP is 10,000 per month, and I use the broker like Aditya Birla Money. Gives it.
Okay. All right. Surya, you've gone through his portfolio, what he sent us. Do you think he's on the right track?
See, the method which he's doing is correct. SIPs has to be the way going forward for all retail investors, especially the ones who are having a regular income in the form of salaries. But where I find lacking is the lack of knowledge. He's doing the right thing, but he does not know what he's doing. So what he's doing is correct, nothing to take away from that. But I should be on top of what I am doing, because then I can really do justice to my investment. I know it's a SIP, but SIP does not guarantee me any return. I don't look at a period of investment. I need to look at long term. If I'm targeting a return on SIP, that's something wrong inherently. Need to create an asset classes between SIPs. If I want to have a very safe portfolio, I need to go to a debt side of the asset class. If I think I can have a longevity to my portfolio, I need to look at equities. If you think equity is not your cup of tea, I cannot have a risk tolerance level. I can start with a hybrid balance funds. I think hybrid balance funds are the asset classes which needs to be promoted, because they can actually give you stop the gap between the investor who is not having adequate knowledge about equities, and can be a bridge gap for him to actually walk down before he can really test the untested waters of equity. So look at that. If you're not comfortable with returns coming in debt, hybrid asset classes like balance funds definitely makes good sense for you, but do look at long term, and the targeted return over here should be your inflation adjusted. I should aim at having a beating inflation by 2 to 3%. If you are able to do that, your job is well done. Don't aim for a 15-20% return. It may get delivered to you over a long period of time, but your planning should not be based on a percentage of 15% or higher. Aim for 3% higher than inflation, and that's a good return. It's not easy to beat inflation. It looks very easy and tempting. 9%, okay, I can beat it very comfortably, but that's not the case. To get an 11, 12, 13% return consistently over long term, then you will find the power of compounding starts working in your favor.
All right, Surya, we take a short break here on Money's Best Friend. After the break, we will take more of your queries. Keep watching Money's. You're watching Money's Best Friend with me, Vivek Law. Time to take some more questions from our viewers. We've got Rakesh who is joining us now. Hi, Rakesh. Rakesh?
Yes.
Yes, Rakesh, tell me a little about yourself.
Hello.
Yes, Rakesh, tell me a little about yourself.
My name is Rakesh, and I work in private job. I'm from Muzaffarpur, Bihar.
How old are you?
I'm 34 years.
And have you invested till now? What have you been doing with your money?
15,000 per month.
Okay. Do you manage to save anything?
Yeah.
How much do you save?
5,000 to 7,000.
And do you invest this money? What do you do with it?
I keep it in FD, sir.
You've been putting it
right
in
now
FDs.
I want to keep it in mutual fund.
Okay. Well, his question that we got, Surya, was that he wants to understand how do you go about investing in a mutual fund? And maybe it's a good time to step back a bit and tell our viewers, because there's an increasing interest in wanting to invest in mutual funds. So if you could simply put that.
See, anyone who wants to start creating a investment corpus through mutual funds, I think the start process comes from having to do a KYC for yourself. It's a know your customer, which means it's a mandated requirement by SEBI that any investor who wants to come in the investment category has to be KYC compliant. So there's a form for that. That form needs to be attached along with your address proof and copy of the PAN card. PAN card is essential for any investment to be done in India. And going forward, all fixed deposits, your post offices, PAN card, I think will become sacrosanct. So by default, a copy of the PAN card along with your address proof with the KYC makes you KYC compliant. Once you're KYC compliant, you're all set to start your mutual funds. Now, how do you really do that? If you have a lump sum money to be invested, you can actually do a one-time investment in a mutual fund. Or if you have a regular cash flows income coming to you, you can actually start a SIP, which we really harp about every time, which is systematic investment plan. Even in a lump sum, you can create a strategy that you can do an SIP likewise investment, which is called as STP, systematic transfer plan. The way that works is you can put your money into a liquid corpus, which is in a simple layman can be called as an open fixed deposit. And from there, the money gets transferred from scheme A, which is my open fixed deposit, and gets transferred to my required scheme, which I really want to get invested. This is done to ensure that the volatility is mitigated, reduced to a certain extent, and it works just like a SIP for you. In case of regular income, please start a SIP book. Understand your needs and goals. That's very important. How much amount of money you can save, understand, identify your goals. Based on your goals, create various baskets. The baskets can be identified as short-term or long-term. The shorter end of the curve, which is the short-term baskets which you have, look at safe asset classes. And here your RDs, your post office, your bank deposits works equally well. It depends on your tax efficiency you want to bring to your table. If you're in a higher tax bracket, then maybe the bank FDs may not work very well. Look at debt category, debt-based mutual funds or debt mutual funds. On the liquid side, you have a liquid fund, then you have a short-term fund, then you have a medium-term fund, then you have long-term funds. Depending on the longevity you want to have in the debt portfolio, you can pick and choose, but here also you have a risk quotient attached to it. By default, people assume debt assets very safe. Answer is yes. At the same time, I have a mark-to-market risk. My interest rates changes and fluctuates quite often, which is happening right now. So in today's time, when the interest rates are expected to go down and are going down, you find that my debt returns will get better. Because my yield, there's an inverse relationship between my return and my yield. So therefore, in going down times, which is these times, you find your debt funds to do better right now. And that's why you find a lot of interests happening in these tax-free bonds which have come in the market.
Can you tell us a little about them?
So tax-free bonds typically give you an option of investment for minimum period of 10 years, 15 years and 20 years at a guaranteed interest rate offered by these issuing companies, like PFC is one of them. NTPC was just closed earlier. So they give you a guaranteed return of varying between anything from 7.2%, 7.1% to 7.5%. That's an average belt you have. And they give you a guaranteed interest payout annually. But there is no compounding effect in this because it's a payout interest.
Because the money is coming
Money comes out annually to you. So it makes very good sense for investors who are in the higher tax brackets or who want their portfolio to be very, very safe. Who want the word secured tagged to their asset classes, it makes sense for them. But at the same time, you have locked in for 10 years, 15 years or 20 years respectively. So you have to take a call that whether it suits you or not, depending on your asset classes, your allocations to your portfolio.
All right, we have an SMS now which has come in from MS Pushkarna. He writes, I'm a retired central government employee. My age is 62 years. I receive 43,000 rupees per month as pension. From FDs, I earn about 20,000 rupees per month as interest. I currently save 10,000 rupees per month in a PPF. Please suggest where I can invest my 10,000 rupees per month for better returns to get maximum tax benefits.
So here you have, look at, I can create two tax efficiencies over here if you look at very carefully. One tax efficiency, the first one comes at the stage of the earnings which you get. Now, if you look at his case specifically, I have a pension which is taxable. I'm getting an X amount of money from my bank interest. That's also taxable. So I need to create an income stream or income growth which is tax efficient. He has invested 10,000 in a PPF where the interest is tax free, but the problem or the concern is it's locked in. I don't have an accrued income happening to me or coming to me as a payout regularly. In case he needs that, he needs to withdraw the corpus. So that's one thing he needs to be a little careful about. Second concern is how you can bring efficiency is on tax saving. ATC, which is already using to a certain extent by putting in 10,000 rupees in the PPF, he can also always enhance it and do maybe an ELSS. But ELSS stands for Equity Linked Savings Scheme. So by default, that money gets invested in a equity product. He should, provided he has some appetite for risk tolerance, look at equities as an asset class. Also, the advantage it will bring to him is a shorter period of lock-in. My PPF carries a 15-year lock-in, and an ELSS minimum lock-in is 3 years. So I have an option to use that money after 3 years, and I can always opt for a dividend payout, which means the regular money also comes to me in case I need the money. And after 3 years, the money is available at my disposal. So you can actually create a SIP book in a ELSS, which can actually become recurring in nature, and post 3 years, the same money comes back to him, which he can always redeploy and becomes a wheel for him. So that's how we can
It's
create
interesting
his
that
portfolio.
you say that, because I think many people tend to feel that once I've hit 60 or 62, equity is something I should never go into. But our longevity has only increased as a society, isn't it?
And if that is the case, why will I do a scheme which is locked in? I will not do a scheme which is a 15-year lock-in for me. It's not about safety tag. In case I need the money should be at my disposal at that age. That's the basic principle you should follow when you are looking at that age as a criteria. I don't think I need the money, but I have the flexibility at my end of the money being available to me just in case I need the money.
All right. Thanks very much, Surya, like always, for coming by here on Money's Best Friend. It's time now to wrap up this edition of Money's Best Friend. If you have any query related to equity, mutual funds, insurance, real estate, gold, then do write into us at moneysbestfriend@aajtak.com. Goodbye and have a nice weekend.